So now we move on to the student awards. Every year we give out 3 student awards to University of Strathclyde, Robert Gordon University, and now we've also included Glasgow University in that. So I'm going to ask the students to come up one at a time and get the award. We'll also take a quick photograph of you while you're doing that, but we'll do some pose photographs after as well. Okay, so the University of Glasgow recipient can't be here today, and that is Maria Benoa. But we do have the University of Strathclyde winner, so can I ask Colette Kinnaird to come up, please? And can we give a round of applause? There you go, congratulations, thank you. And the winner for Robert Gordon University is Cameron Wilson. Can I ask Cameron to come up, please? There you go. Thank you, well done. And those awards are given for excellence in their respective courses, and these are the library and information courses across Scotland that CILIPS accredit. So well done to all the student winners, that was excellent. So now we're going to move on to our opening keynote, which I'm very excited about. We are delighted to welcome Catherine Salmond, who is editor of the Scotland of Sunday. Catherine was formerly also live news editor at Edinburgh Evening News and a senior reporter amongst many other publications that she has written for. One of the main reasons that we've asked Catherine to be here is because her paper is a passionate supporter of libraries and launched a campaign last August to champion their work and fight to secure the future, which is so important to us as a professional body, to have that support within the media, to have other voices put on front pages and within newspapers. So we're really delighted to have Catherine here. So can I now just welcome Catherine up to the stage and give a round of applause. Thank you very much. I know. If I knew how to move those steps, I would. I tried earlier. That's fine. I'll just get that. Okay, so you can just use return and backspace, or you can click.
Okay, cool. Hopefully. So, good morning. I'm Catherine Salmond, as Sean just said, editor of Scotland on Sunday. Delighted to have been asked to come to Dundee to give this speech today. Stop the press, but never our libraries. The importance of media campaigning. Newspapers and their websites, if produced properly, are much like public libraries. Why? Newspapers, just like libraries, are a place of reference, to learn from, somewhere to have views challenged, to be inspired, entertained, to laugh, reflect, to cry, listen, look and think. Our journalists are household names for many, a go-to for readers, much like the authors whose works line our library shelves. Ideas are exchanged in newspapers, not only by journalists, but through letters pages or in online comment sections by readers. In libraries, clubs and societies come together, workshops are held, debates are had, people talk to one another, listen and think. They are places of thought, reflection, sharing, and of course also fun, just like newspapers. Newspapers are a vital part of the fabric of our society, just like libraries. Unfortunately for us both, we are all too well aware of the financial challenges we both face. And our worlds are very much intertwined. News titles have a huge responsibility to be reliable and trusted, to accurately record the events of the day. This should be the base driver for all those who produce them, certainly is for me as an editor. After all, our pages, in print and in digital form, of course, eventually make their way to libraries, where our words, pictures, and multimedia are carefully stored to become a source of reference for generations to come, an official record of times gone by. Much of this will inform reference work for centuries thereafter. Much of it will also inspire authors in their storytelling, events from yesteryear sparking ideas for contemporary works of fiction, for example. But libraries are traditionally quiet places, yet the media is loud. And this is where we differ, and this is where we, the media, can also be at our very best. Newspapers and all forms of media, for that matter, have a responsibility to use their position in society to try to influence, to fight for change, to campaign. We have volume, and we should use that responsibly, turning it up loud when we believe we really need to be heard. We can be a much louder voice than that of our individual readers, and we can use this volume to push on their behalf for things we know matter to them. Campaigning has long been a key role of the media, and it must remain so, from small weekly titles right through to the biggest selling nationals with the loudest voices. It is our bread and butter, and we must use it well to bring about the change our readers want to see. Is it working? Yes. That is why last August, Scotland on Sunday launched Support Our Libraries, our campaign to fight for the future of Scotland's public libraries. Our mission statement was and remains to fight for the country's libraries, stand up for their vital work, tell the stories of people across Scotland who use them and rely on them, and push for their futures at every turn. But why did we do it? At the core, because we care. At Scotland on Sunday, we believe a better Scotland, a more just and fairer Scotland can only come about through education for all. Free access to public libraries sits at the very heart of this. As Sean wrote in our paper last month, although you didn't get paid for this, did you, Sean? No, sorry. How much value a nation or local authority attaches to its libraries can often be a good indication of how much it values its people. Ponder this thought, and we'll come back to it later. As for our campaign, we jumped on the back of the Scottish Library and Information Council's 2021 to 2025 strategy, which puts public libraries at the heart of the country's recovery from the COVID pandemic. We launched, with the support of SLIC, that same week the strategy was published, with a powerful long read from the award-winning writer Danny Garavelli, who, with photographer John Devlin, as the basis of a piece looking at the financial and political challenges facing Scotland's libraries, spent time with members of the public in Glasgow, who were fighting for the reopening of libraries closed during the pandemic. Like most services, all of Scotland's 490-odd public libraries had been closed. But while many had started reopening when restrictions gradually lifted in April 2021, some 61 at the time of our campaign launch remained closed with no dates for a reopening. Reasons given related to money, as is usually the way with public libraries, particularly in the case of many houses housed in listed buildings in Glasgow which needed extensive repairs with hefty maintenance costs. Speaking about the situation in Glasgow where the majority of closed libraries were, Garavelli wrote, "Questions are now being asked about the priorities of the City Council, which has been controlled by the SNP since 2017. If narrowing the attainment gap is at the top of the party's agenda, why is the library at Hillhead, an area of relevant affluence, open, but the libraries in Whiteinch and Mary Hill, areas of relevant deprivation, shut?" It was terrible. Pressure needed to be put on the local authorities to get these libraries open. Why? Because the public needed them? For simple reasons such as having access to a computer and a printer to apply for a job, or for a small child who had likely spent most of their COVID-impacted life so far in the four walls of their home, to get out to a book bug session, to be told a story, hear a song, spend some time with other youngsters. These libraries needed to be reopened to give people access to books, to fuel a simple love of reading, and perhaps more importantly, to allow communities to come together. The pandemic had and has changed Scotland forever on many levels, and the coming together of people to help make sense of that, to heal and recover, was and is vital. We believed in the fundamental point in SLIC's strategy: put libraries at the heart of Scotland's recovery from the pandemic. As the report reads, they are an essential part of Scotland's social fabric, supporting and inspiring people to fulfil their potential. It continues, with over 40 million visits per year, Scotland's public libraries are the most popular service local government provides. An infrastructure with over 490 local venues, 49 mobile libraries and a 24/7 digital offer sees 1 in 22 of the public regularly use local libraries. It is against this proud backdrop that this strategy sets out its vision to ensure public libraries in Scotland remain at the leading edge to empower communities. Public libraries deliver a wide range of benefits which place them at the centre of the collective endeavour to improve literacy, close the attainment gap, promote health, champion well-being, pioneer sustainability, tackle social isolation, reduce inequality and close the digital divide. Public libraries deliver significant economic benefits on preventative spend and return on investment. The health and wellbeing offer from libraries is estimated to bring a cost saving to NHS Scotland of £3.2 million each year. With all this information to hand, we felt it was right to turn our volume up and make some noise. Questions needed to be asked as to what the priorities were for those local authorities who were keeping libraries closed. We needed to get people really talking about libraries, have a proper conversation, get them right up there as a topic of priority. What is their place in modern day Scotland? Who uses them? Why do they use them? What sort of Scotland would we be without public libraries? And what sort of Scotland could we be with properly funded public libraries? I admit most campaigns have an end goal, an amount of money to be raised, or a solution or a result, for example. I wish we could have a campaign that could realistically fix all the problems facing public libraries. How wonderful would it be if that were possible? I knew it was not. We all know no media campaign can fully support or indeed save every public library in Scotland. But we knew it mattered and matters to do all we can, especially as Scotland comes out of the pandemic and purse strings are being pulled tighter still, to try to get the support for our libraries that are so vital to our recovery. So I was prepared to break from the usual media campaigning conventions, turn the volume up, apply the pressure, and get a discussion about the importance of public libraries out there. That was our main intention. I'll look at what we've achieved later, but now I'll come back to Sean's point. How much value a nation or local authority attaches to its libraries can often be a good indication of how much it values its people. I'm new to the game of being a newspaper editor. I have, of course, as Sean said, been in the industry for a fair while in various roles, but Scotland on Sunday is my first shot at being in charge. I took over the title just weeks before we launched our campaign, and was I revved up, of course, full of enthusiasm and vision. I was just the person to throw myself into some loud noise making, and I still am. And I was determined for our paper to make a difference. I don't want Scotland on Sunday to be the same as our competitors, and I want it to stand for something, to stand for Scotland and Scots. And through that, I believe, coming back to Sean's point, that Scotland and its many local authorities should place huge value on libraries and should value its people. My upbringing and education was shaped by public libraries and access to books, and this should be a right for every Scot. In my first From the Editor column, I promised to champion Scotland at every turn, to speak up for our brilliant country, our people, our sporting teams, our arts, our businesses, our traditions and our communities, fighting to try to safeguard the future of our libraries, believing there is a moral responsibility to provide access to them, and all they offer and boast will be something Scotland on Sunday will always do, for as long as I'm editor at least. Now, back to the campaign. What did we consider to be the key ingredients to success? Number one, we needed some glamour, some celebrity backing. We needed high-profile names to lend their support and clout. So we pulled in the phenomenal Damien Barr to kick things off for us with a moving, impassioned, first-person piece about how libraries changed his life. I'll be forever grateful for all Damien has done for us. Every story we run, he pushes it through his social media accounts, bigs us up, flies the flag for the message we are shouting loudly. I think a bit late on that one. Is that working, Sean? All right. I don't know what it's doing. It's just going round and round. It doesn't matter, I'll just keep going. Over the last 9 months, we also had the support of writers Sir Ian Rankin, Alexander McCall-Smith, Chris Brookmeyer, Lynn Anderson, just to name a few, along with leading industry experts and groups, which support has been invaluable and always uplifting to myself and the team, and include you in that, Sean. Oh. I would like to read you the piece Damien wrote for the Support Our Libraries. It is powerful, emotional, funny, and of course, a beautiful explanation of why every Scot should have access to public libraries. Our libraries can save us. I know they can. We just have to save them first. Newark Hill Library saved my life. It was safe and warm when home was cold and chaotic. Nothing bad ever happened in the library, except in books. I'm still not over Aslan, and don't get me started of Mice and Men. As a boy, I lost myself in stories, and eventually that's where I found myself too, because every writer starts out as a reader. I was safe among the stacks, and I didn't often feel safe growing up. Lanarkshire in the 1980s and 90s was not a great place to be specky and gay with a Catholic mum and a Protestant dad. My library card was a passport to countless other worlds and an escape from this one. With my head in a book, I could forget Ravenscraig shutting, my dad losing his job, my parents divorcing, the meagre sum my mum got at the post office shrinking while our gas and electricity meters got hungrier. The bullies who haunted me never dared cross the library threshold. It was magic. The radiators were always roasting. The lights never went out. Nobody ever tried to hurt me. Our libraries are a sanctuary open to all, for the benefit of all, and we forget this at our peril, especially now. We don't like to think about the ugly reasons why people might need a safe place, reasons that have only become more acute during COVID. More families falling into poverty, more children lagging behind, more of us struggling with mental and physical health. Since 2010, the UK government has chosen to close 800 libraries. Yes, chosen. Cuts don't just happen. If we allow our libraries to be the latest casualty in our ongoing culture wars, we will all suffer. More than a quarter of Scotland's libraries remain shut, even after restrictions lifted. The very real fear is COVID will be a cover for more closures. This is not austerity, it's stupidity. Even a writer can do the sums. Reading is a joy, but libraries are not a luxury. The more they pay for themselves, £6.95 is generated for every £1 spent, according to the 2019 Economic Impact Analysis. We know reading is good for us, reducing stress and inspiring empathy. NHS Scotland estimates libraries save them £3.2 million annually. Central government is forcing local government to make impossible choices between social services and libraries. This is a false binary because libraries are a frontline service. They improve literacy, champion well-being, tackle social isolation and bridge the digital divide. You might be reading this online, but 1 in 7 Scots will struggle with data poverty and depend on library computers to get online. Libraries are our most used public service, and they are essential to the public health and wealth of our communities as surgeries and schools. When Newitt Hill Library was threatened in 2016, I imagined MeWe locked out. Where would he go? Closure was presented as a foregone conclusion by a cash-strapped council, as most folk seemed resigned to losing yet another good thing. But not everyone. I spoke to locals who used the library computer to do their benefit applications. Without these, they'd be sanctioned. I met happy families at the Book Bug Club. I discussed Dickens and the new rebus. Communities elsewhere had resisted closure, and they didn't even have the thrawn grit of Newitt Hillians. Together we fought and won, but it's not a fight anyone should be having. Our libraries can help power a sustainable recovery from COVID and the inequalities it has revealed and exacerbated. Our libraries can save us, I know they can. We just have to save them first. So what else does a good media campaign need? It's readers. We needed our readers. No campaign can be a success without their engagement and support. After all, we are shouting for them, turning up the volume for what matters to them. We have carried many pieces from readers directly impacted by closures, desperate for them to reopen with long-term security. Much of this has been through the coverage we have given to the campaigners in Glasgow, who for months stood outside the likes of the Cooper Institute or Whiteinch Library, holding outdoor reading sessions, come rain or shine. Armed with fold-up chairs, refreshments and gazebos, they were relentless. We amplified their voices, in print and online, further turning up the volume using social media. It became a two-way exchange, us promoting their work and them promoting ours. The message of the need to get these libraries reopened could not be ignored. Sean, this is broken. Oh no. There we go. Last October, our political reporter, Hannah Brown, spent some time with the Save the Cooper campaign group, who was growing increasingly frustrated as its library, which has been part of the neighbourhood for more than 100 years, and its community hub remained closed. When they spoke, the facility had been shut for 569 days, and campaigners felt they were being ignored by politicians whom they had repeatedly approached for answers. There was a flurry of activity over the summer, partly because of media attention, one campaigner told us, but actually, the reality is we've had no response. We are not party political, and we don't want our campaign to be made into that. We are working women who would like to have our library open for our children who are of school age. We've been in the pandemic now for coming up to 20 months, and to not have a local resource like this, especially for people who have lost work, is really frustrating. Last September, our reporter Conor Marlborough spoke with a reader from Glasgow, a cancer survivor, who told him his local library offered him a lifeline during his treatment because this is where Macmillan volunteers would meet to offer vital support. Filling in forms and paying bills can actually become really difficult and really stressful because you're just so exhausted, he told us. A local library is a place someone can go to get things sorted. GPs just don't have the time. Reader engagement, as with all media campaigns, has been key, and I thank everyone who's been involved. The third thing our campaign needed, aside from noise, clever, informed and passionate celebrities like Damien, and our readers, was pressure, political pressure. Journalists are good at this, asking tricky questions and then publishing the answers. Politicians and decision makers can't really ignore us. It doesn't look good, and their answers, however complete or incomplete, are there for all to see and for us to remind them of at a later date. So we asked a lot of questions of the local authorities who were keeping public libraries closed, and we kept asking them. We were probing. Last November, for example, when the Scottish Government announced the allocation of its programme for government funding, giving grants, including nearly 450,000 to Glasgow, to reopen its 5 shuttered libraries and extend the opening hours of some others, would this really be enough to secure the long-term future of our libraries? Industry experts certainly didn't think so, and so their views were, of course, published too. In the run-up to the Scottish elections last month, we put the main political parties on the spot. Where did they stand on the future of public libraries? What were they going to do to safeguard their futures? We ran a beautifully illustrated 2-page spread in print where every party declared their long-standing support and commitment to properly funded public libraries. They all love, cherish and value them, so it would seem. God, Sean. Blaming you. And their words have been recorded. We will not forget them either. That month I also urged readers to hold their elected members to account. Don't let them forget what they said. Don't let them forget our libraries. So where are we at with the campaign? What have been our successes and where are we going? Well, lots of libraries have reopened since the pandemic saw them forced to close, since we launched our campaign. It's been wonderful to see, but we cannot take the credit for that. The dedicated, library-loving people who stood outside these buildings every weekend for months must get that credit. We simply amplified their voices and helped to get them heard. I'm not underestimating the impact this had, nor the asking of questions to those in power. That was us, but it was a collective effort. These decision makers must also get credit for making sensible choices with what we all understand are diminishing pools of money. We have been successful in being heard through our stories, pictures, videos, and with the help of some famous faces. We know that from social media. Our campaign has also attracted industry attention, hence the fact I was asked to come here today, and gained attention across the UK and further afield. I can think specifically of a piece Danny Garavelli wrote last September comparing the amount of investment that goes into Scotland's libraries with that of countries such as Denmark. We were very fortunate to be able to draw on our strong industry links to get attention, and through Nick Poole, we managed to even raise awareness of what is happening in libraries in Ukraine right now. It may seem odd to speak about libraries, archives and databases in the midst of a war, he wrote for us, but we have seen enough of conflict around the world to know that the first resorts of tyrants is often to bomb the archives and shell the libraries. So where do we go from here? Well, we're definitely not finished. Our campaign has no end date. We have no cut-off point. So we intend to continue fighting to hold decision makers to account. It's our job as journalists, and we love that. And we will continue to celebrate all that is vital, beautiful, and inspiring about our publications, all who work in them and use them. But we need your help. Tell us what is going on. Give us your tip-offs. Use us. Libraries are part of the fabric of Scotland, and now fighting for them is definitely part of the fabric of Scotland on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I think when we see all of that written down, we see how much wonderful content you put into the paper, and it really makes such a difference to hear those voices of the campaigners, of authors like Damien and many others, and we do really appreciate that. And it's great to hear it's not got an end date, because we'll be happy to keep supporting that. Now, if people haven't got too sore heads from last night, we'd love to take a couple of questions. Would anyone like to ask anything? We've got a question at the back there.
Hi, I'm Katrina from Glasgow Libraries.
Hello.
I just wanted to say thank you for amplifying the voices of the campaigns. That was a very challenging period for Glasgow, but without yourself, Damien, Sean, Pamela and others, those voices would have been held locally, and that conversation made something happen nationally, and that really does make a difference for Glasgow. So we're now in a place where we can support those people, and we know that the support that they need through those services. So happy to report that Glasgow's libraries are open again, which is a real positive. But I was just wondering about the next element of the campaign that not only Glasgow but others will face is probably about the definition of a statutory service being an adequate one.
Yeah.
And is that something that could be a conversation for the future?
Definitely, we've spoken about this, haven't we? And it is a very ambiguous, just have a library. It could be open for an hour a week, and that would meet the legal requirement. It is something that Sean and Nick and I have spoken about, that we would like to look into more. So I don't have a plan quite yet, but yes, definitely. And perhaps we could work with you on that. And all the Glasgow stories, definitely. A feisty bunch over there.
Any other questions?
I don't know whether Sean might be best answering this, but so I'm Hannah Anderson, and I've come up from Cheltenham, and back in 2010 I was doing a lot of campaigning to save libraries in my local area. But what I found was really difficult was getting librarians to be activists and campaign. And so we were trying to, I was one of the few that did, and we were trying to get our stories out in the press. But as an academic librarian, I could speak out because my job wasn't at risk. But the public librarians were very fearful of doing that. And I'm just wondering I know it's very different, because CILIPS Scotland have been a lot more active than CILIP England was at the time. But I was just wondering if you've found that difficult in getting, you've mentioned celebrities a lot, and authors a lot, and local campaigners, but I found when it was just the authors speaking in the press and celebrities, as great as they were, they had a very kind of different idea of how libraries were run to the way that librarians did. So I'm just wondering if you found that difficult in getting the voices of librarians out there, and has it changed since you started the campaign?
We haven't. We did a really good piece from one of the librarians that works in the Women's Library in Glasgow, and I get what you mean about celebrities. It's a bit of an echo chamber, isn't it? Libraries are great, but we all know that. We do need, people right on the front and talking about the shortcomings, but we haven't had specific problems, but I do think the job issue of, a lot of them were employed by the people that were trying to make the cuts. So that it does place people in a difficult situation, but we would love to.
I mean, I think
somebody's got some nitty gritty from behind the scenes they would like to share. Then
it is very difficult, I think, for anyone that works in a local authority to speak out completely understandably, and we would never ask anyone to put themselves in that position. But what I would say is, if you're aware of something, you work in a local authority, if you come to us, we can pass on the information without people being, and also, it doesn't have to be librarians saying this is terrible, but it can be just sharing the case studies, the great stories, because you're not putting yourself in a you're just telling what your service does. So if anyone, I think we probably as a wider profession should do that more, and we can do it in our website, or I'm sure Catherine would be happy to consider any great stories that are out there. So don't hesitate to come to us. If it needs to be anonymous, speak to me. If you want to go more public, then obviously I can put you in touch with Catherine or others.
We did a lovely celebration piece of the Children's Library in Edinburgh with video content, which obviously librarians are happy to talk about that, but they were very, what is it that you want to know? They don't want to speak badly of the City Council. The problem we have with some of that is they're lovely colour features, but they're not hard news. So the hard news is what sells for us, the actual stories. But we have a responsibility to do both, which I've said, expose but also celebrate. So yes, we need to have some librarians that perhaps would be willing to tell us
Yeah,
something, maybe off the record.
We're very good at letting other people speak for us, and
Yeah.
I think we need to be better at speaking for ourselves, and that's where the professional bodies come in. I remember CILIPS England saying to me at the time, we can't campaign because we're a charity. Well, no, actually, that's your job, and I think things are changing. So I really welcome you saying that you're there to kind of give a voice and a platform to librarians.
Yeah.
And I would encourage everybody, as you said, to
Absolutely.
get involved.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yep, I think we'll just have one more question. So just.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. I'm Andrew Given from Renfrewshire Libraries. It was just really, it's fantastic what you've been doing and the campaigns that you've been highlighting. We're in a very concerning time. You know, last week there was a public spending review was announced, and Kate Forbes was basically saying that 17,000 public service jobs, local council jobs, could go in the next few years. Yeah. And we've been here before. You know, we had, you know, there was after the financial crash, there was huge cuts to services. And this touches on what you were saying about statutory services. One of the real problems has been the hollowing out of services. So, you know, the local councillor can say that the library is kept open, but the numbers of staff in there, the different pay grades are reduced, so you've got lower paid staff working on the front line, and that has a real impact. So particularly in the poorer areas, you know, it's great to keep the libraries open, but we also need the staff that are able to work with the schools and do all that additional work to really, you know, to get everybody, to get the community using the library. So I think that's a good, if the campaign's thinking about maybe a slightly more kind of nuanced message about it. That it's not just keeping the library open, which is great, but also what services that library is providing.
That's the spending review is of great concern, and as you say, what's going on behind the scenes. The building could be open, but the professionalism isn't there. So again, we need you to tell us if that is happening, because it can go unnoticed on the bigger picture. So definitely.
Yeah, and again, come to us if you want us to do the speaking about it. But yeah, whatever.
Is that something that you've seen happen before? Yeah. So it probably will happen again.
10 years ago, all the community librarians were they lost their jobs. People that had years of service, and they were all basically forced into voluntary early retirement, and it's had a huge impact on the service that we provide.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay.
We'll end on that cheery note.
Yeah. So let's. But yeah, and that's the reality of it. So thank you again for sharing these stories, Catherine, and continue to do so. And we will help you in whatever way.
Well, thank you. You've been a huge support.
Well, and mutually.
Email Sean, like, can you produce this in like 10 minutes? And he does.
Yeah, but not today, but any other time. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can we just show our appreciation to Catherine one more time?